I am 91 years old, and I need you to hear something that might save your life. There's a stethoscope hanging on a brass hook by my front door. It's been there for 19 years. The rubber tubing is cracked now, yellowed like old newspaper. Dust sits in the bell where I used to press it against beating hearts. Thousands of beating hearts. I could pick it up right now if I wanted to. My hand reaches for it sometimes, out of habit, the way you reach for a light switch in a room you haven't entered in years. But I always stop. I always pull back, because touching it would mean remembering who I was. And who I was is the reason I'm sitting here, in this dim hallway, listening to a clock tick away what little time I have left. I was a doctor for 53 years. 53 years of saving other people. And I am telling you right now, from the bottom of whatever is left of this ruined body, if you are over 40 and you are ignoring what your body is whispering to you, stop. Stop today, not tomorrow, not next month, not after the next project. Not after the kids are settled, not after the holidays, today, because I ignored those whispers for 30 years, and those whispers became screams, and now those screams are silence. The kind of silence that means something inside you has given up talking to you altogether. Nobody is coming to save you from yourself. Believe me, I would know. I was the one people came to for saving. Let me tell you who I used to be, because you need to understand the size of the lie I swallowed before you can understand why it nearly killed me. I was brilliant. I'm not saying that to boast. I'm saying it because it's the truth. And the truth is exactly what made me stupid. I graduated top of my class. I walked hospital corridors like I owned a tile beneath my shoes. The white coat fit me like armor. And that stethoscope, that same stethoscope, now rotting by my front door, it hung around my neck like a medal of war. I earned it. I believe that. Every morning I smelled the antiseptic scrub on my hands, the sharp sting of rubbing alcohol, the stale coffee from the nurse's station that never stopped brewing, and I felt invincible. Those smells meant I was in command. Pagers going off, heart monitors beeping in rhythms I could read the way a musician reads sheet music. I was fluent in the language of the human body. Every symptom, every murmur, every shadow on an x-ray, I knew it all. And that knowing is what destroyed me. I told patients to change their diets. I told them to sleep 8 hours. I told them to exercise, manage stress, quit smoking, cut the drinking. I told them their blood pressure was a ticking bomb. I told them their cholesterol was building walls inside their arteries that would one day close the door for good. I said these things with authority, with conviction, with a stethoscope around my neck and a pen in my pocket, and the absolute confidence of a man who had memorized every disease in every textbook ever written. And then I walked back to the break room and drank my 6th cup of black coffee. I ate whatever the cafeteria was serving because I didn't have time to think about food. Processed, fried, loaded with sodium, I didn't care. I slept 4 hours a night and wore it like a badge of honor. 4 hours, as if deprivation was discipline. I felt tightness in my chest, starting in my mid-40s, and told myself it was stress. Of course it's stress. I'm a doctor. I work 80-hour weeks. Stress is part of the job. I never once sat on the other side of the examination table. Never once let another physician press that cold steel circle to my chest. Why would I? I'm a doctor. I would know if something was wrong. That was the lie. Right there. 5 words that almost put me in the ground, decades ahead of schedule. I would know. No, I wouldn't, because knowing is not the same as looking, and I refused to look. I was 72 years old when everything came apart. There was a scan, a routine scan, the kind I ordered for other people every single week, the kind I almost didn't show up for because I had a golf game that afternoon. A golf game. That's how casual I was about my own survival. I almost chose 18 holes over the appointment that would reveal my body had been quietly falling apart for years. My wife had nagged me into it. She'd been asking for months. I finally went just to stop the asking. The imaging center smelled like rubbing alcohol and latex gloves. I know that smell better than I know the smell of my own home. But this time it was different. This time I wasn't the one reading the results. This time I was sitting on that crinkled paper sheet that I'd heard 10,000 patients fidget on. And for the first time in my life, I understood why they fidgeted. That paper sounds different when it's under you. It sounds like vulnerability. It sounds like your body saying, "You're not in charge anymore." The technician was quiet, too quiet. I've been in medicine long enough to know what a quiet technician means. They don't make small talk when the images look wrong. The fluorescent lights buzzed above me, that low electrical hum that you never notice until the room goes silent and you're waiting for someone to tell you whether you're dying. My colleague came in, a younger man, a man I had mentored, in fact. He sat down across from me and he didn't look me in the eye. He looked at the folder. He looked at the wall. There was an anatomy poster behind him, the kind they hang in every examination room in the country, a detailed map of the human body, with every organ labeled in clean black text. I stared at that poster while he opened his mouth and told me what I already knew from his silence. Advanced kidney damage, early stage cardiac failure. I could hear myself breathing, shallow, uneven, the kind of breathing I used to note on charts as a clinical observation. Shallow respiration, possible anxiety response. But this wasn't a chart. This was me. This was my breathing, my failing kidneys, my weakening heart. I sat there and I looked at that anatomy poster on the wall, and I could name every single organ on it. I could name the conditions that affect each one. I could name the medications, the interventions, the surgical options, the survival rates. I could lecture for 2 hours on cardiac pathology without a single note. And none of that knowledge, not 1 hour of study, not 1 page of 1 textbook, not 1 year of residency, none of it had stopped the damage that was already done. Because knowledge without action is decoration. It's a diploma on a wall. It's a stethoscope on a hook. It's nothing. My colleague spoke gently, the way I had spoken to patients 1,000 times. That soft, careful voice. I used to think that voice was compassion. Sitting on the other side of it, I realized it's pity, and I deserved it. I drove home that day and I took the stethoscope off my neck for the last time. I hung it on the brass hook by the front door, and I haven't touched it since. That was 19 years ago. 19 years of living with what I did to myself. My kitchen counter looks like a pharmacy now. Pill bottles lined up in a neat row. Morning pills, evening pills, pills to keep my heart from quitting, pills to do the job my kidneys can barely manage anymore. There's a wheelchair folded in the corner of my living room. I don't use it every day yet, but it's there, waiting, patient, the way disease is patient. And every single day I walk past that stethoscope on the hook. I see it from my chair. The late afternoon light hits it sometimes, and the metal catches a small glow. And for a half second, it looks like it did when it was new, when it was alive, when it meant something. Then the light shifts, and it's just a dead instrument again. Cracked and useless, like me. You want to know what real loneliness is? It's getting holiday cards from people you saved. People whose hearts you listened to, whose blood pressure you brought down, whose lives you redirected with a stern conversation about diet and exercise. They send me photos, their grandchildren, their vacations, their healthy, full, active lives. Lives I help preserve. And I sit here in a quiet house and eat dinner alone and feel my own heartbeat skip and stutter under my palm, because I don't need a stethoscope to hear what's fading. I can feel it, the irregularity, the hesitation, like my heart is trying to decide if it's worth the effort anymore. Sometimes an ambulance passes on the street outside. That siren used to mean purpose. It used to mean someone needs me. Now my jaw tightens and my chest aches, and all it means is someone else is getting the chance I threw away. The chance to be caught in time. I hear the refrigerator hum. I hear the clock tick. I hear my own breathing, rattling around in a chest that I never bothered to protect. That's my symphony now. Those are the sounds of a life I earned through neglect. Now I want to talk to you, directly. You, watching this, listening to this, wherever you are right now. You think you're different from me. You think because you read an article about heart health, because you watched a documentary about nutrition, because you know you should exercise, you think that knowing is enough. It is not enough. I am proof that it is not enough. I had more medical knowledge in my little finger than you will accumulate in your entire life. And it saved exactly 0% of my health. 0. You're over 40, maybe you're 50. Maybe you just turned 41 and you still feel young. Good. That feeling is a trap. That feeling is the same arrogance I carried for 3 decades. Your body is talking to you right now. That stiffness you brush off, that fatigue you blame on work, that shortness of breath you chalk up to being out of shape, those are not inconveniences. Those are warnings. And warnings have an expiration date. Get the blood work done. Schedule the scan. Change what you eat. Move your body. Not next week. Tomorrow morning. Stop telling yourself you'll get to it. You won't get to it. I know you won't because I was you. I was smarter than you, more informed than you, more qualified than you, and I didn't get to it either. There's a stethoscope hanging by my door. It listened to thousands of hearts. It saved lives. and I'm going to take it off that hook right now, and I'm going to give it to you. Not because you need the instrument, but because you need the lesson it carries. Listen to your own heart, not with your ears, with your choices, with your actions, with the way you treat the only body you will ever be given. Listen to yourself while you still can.